Welcome to Thesis statement, or whatever. Look,
We need to talk about Jennifer's body.
in September of 2009, Fox Atomic released Diablo Cody's follow-up project to Juno, Jennifer's Body. On the surface, it was a movie about a ritualistic sacrifice gone wrong, wherein the sacrificed Megan Fox came back as a sexy succubus, steadfastly slicing and swallowing schoolboys. Underneath all that salacious violence, though, was a message on femininity. Or rather, a few messages. Motifs of women empowerment, the disastrous results of abuse, exploring sexuality, and how all of those things had to fight for their place in a social construct that traumatizes practically everyone: high school. The story of the titular Jennifer is told through the eyes of her friend Needy, played by Amanda Seyfried, who wears glasses and has wavy hair, so you know she's the nerdy girl in school. Like, seriously, why is Jennifer, this social goddess, hanging out with this emotionally balanced, level-headed weirdo? No. I'm being real here. Needy.
Come on.
You can do better than her. Jennifer doesn't deserve you. Anyway, our two leads, who may or may not be totally in love with each other, but it's high school in the late aughts, so exploring your sexuality is fine, but just don't talk about it, okay? Wind up going to an indie rock show because Jennifer has a crush on the concept of celebrity that seems to be pretty insatiable, so she winds up always having to be with and around all these guys. Do you get it? Because she's a succubus later? During the band's opening song, the bar catches fire and a bunch of people die, and the band convinces Jennifer to hop in their van. They don't even have to use puppies or candy.
She just gets in.
The band, in a desperate attempt to get an edge on their competition, sacrificed Jennifer, who they believed to be a virgin, to the devil. Good old Jenny, though, has been liberating her sexuality. So the sacrifice doesn't quite go as planned. I mean, she still dies, but she comes back, which I don't think was supposed to happen, and she's possessed by the spirit of a succubus, which I'm certain was not supposed to happen. But she's not so possessed that she doesn't still have elements of original personality. It's almost like the succubus amplifies rather than replaces her personality. For example, OG Jen was popular, flirty, and pretty, and Succubus Jen is somehow even more popular, seductive, and the object of desire for everyone with even a single hormone in their blood. Where before, she needed to be with the boys, now the boys need to be with her. And this is obviously their downfall. Every time she gets a boy isolated, she rips his body open and eats his flesh, which on screen is a lot of fun, but probably not much fun for them. So that process comes to a
Natural conclusion.
which I will not spoil any further. If you have not seen Jennifer's Body recently, I highly recommend that you go back and watch it. It is way better than the critics of the time would have had you believe. It is nuanced in ways you wouldn't expect, and
Probably deserved a sequel.
especially given how the last 5 to 10 minutes of the movie play out. Go watch it.
You'll thank me later.
That, my friends, brings us to a little Canadian flick by the name of Ginger Snaps, released in 2000, starring Emily Perkins and Katherine Isabelle, both of whom will be recognizable to those who habitually watch teen dramas and teen comedies during the mid to late aughts. It is the story of two sisters who have bonded over their shared fascination with the shocking and macabre. One of the sisters, Ginger, is bitten by a strange wolf-like creature, or debatably wolf-like creature, which is drawn to her due to her having recently begun her first period. When I said that Jennifer's Body and Ginger Snaps covered
A lot of the same themes.
I did forget to tell you that Ginger Snaps is,
A lot less subtle.
probably should have warned you there.
My bad.
From here on, Ginger begins to display heightened aggressive behaviors. She beats up the school bully, engages in, shall we say, ill-advised sexual adventures, and is kind of an all-around bitch to the person who cares about her the most. I would continue to give you a rundown on the plot of Ginger Snaps, but honestly, it feels like I'm just talking about the same movie here. Pretty popular girl turns into a boy-hunting monster. Timid nerdy girl searches for a cure, fears she may have to kill this person she cares about. The monster attempts to eat the nerdy girl's love interest. Monster girl has a slow-mo walk through the halls at the school after her transformation. The comparisons are kind of endless at this point. Even the twist at the end
Is the same.
So if you had done as you were told,
Like good little boils and ghouls.
and gone back and watched Jennifer's Body, you would already know how Ginger Snaps ends. And remember how I said that Jennifer's Body would have had a great setup for a sequel? I know that, because that is exactly what Ginger Snaps did. No, quite well, I might add. I mean, Ginger Snaps Unleashed is no Schindler's List, but
Kind of weird if it was.
so, here's the thing. Both of these films talk about things that deserve to be discussed in cinema. Sure, they're made 10 years apart and with very different levels of tact.
Obviously.
But in the case of Ginger Snaps, it was made in the time and spirit of the goth and emo movement. Of course it was more heavy-handed.
It was actively trying to be edgy.
Whereas Jennifer's Body was trying to be a film first, and a vehicle for those messages second. Some of these shortcomings cannot really be nitpicked. CGI was pretty well developed by the time Jennifer's Body came along, but at the same time, a lot of the budget went to securing the right acting talent. We're talking about a meager $16 million budget. In 2009, there's just some hurdles that could not be overcome without a significantly larger amount of money. The same can be said of Ginger Snaps. They went the practical effects route, considering it was 2000, and this was basically a Canadian indie film. And without the mega studio resources and funding, the weight of the story had to rest on character development, rather than making convincing and scary-looking beasts. That said, though, for what they are, they visually stand up. Sure, some of the ending visuals of Ginger Snaps are laughable at times, but when viewed through the scope of context, they are entirely forgivable. These movies attempt to give us edgy, female-led horror action, and they deliver. They attempt to address topics pertaining to women coming of age, and from what I can see, what I'm told,
They deliver.
they attempt to provide perspective, sneaking under our defenses, using the guise of gory horror fun to tell us something important.
And they fucking deliver.
There may come a day where I rip these movies down to the studs.
But it is not this day.
Today, I implore you, with every ounce of my black, oozing heart, to watch these movies, back to back if you can, and appreciate the very clear love and dedication put into both projects. Watch Ginger Snaps and recognize that Ginger walked, occasionally on all fours, so that Jennifer could run and float and, fly, I guess. So while these movies may not be top-tier cinema, they do provide an enjoyable watching experience and an engaging introduction to some real-world topics. You can watch these two films just for the horror, and they function just fine. But the true richness lies beyond that. When you really let the filmmakers speak to you, you'll find you're not just watching a couple of mid-grade horror movies, rather plucky, edgy films with something real to say. The personalities of the writers shine through, and they become that much more endearing. When you look at Diablo Cody's work on Juno, you expected it to have something to say about teen pregnancy. But when you watch Jennifer's Body, you can find yourself pleasantly surprised and even refreshed at the subject matter that is addressed there. It's just nice, sometimes, to have more to chew on in a movie than action or jump scares or tropes. Horror provides so much room to use imagery and analogy to discuss heavier topics. And when filmmakers use it that way, it transcends the genre and becomes something more. When films like It Follows, Jennifer's Body, Shudder, and even Ginger Snaps reach beyond the gimmick and have something to say about life and the world, they provide a different experience than movies like Saw, Halloween, or The Conjuring. Those last three may have been more successful, but I think you'd be hard-pressed to make the argument that they are truly better films. Except for Ginger Snaps. I mean, I'll give you that one. Oh my gosh, you would not believe how long I've been holding that in.
It's been bugging me.
But join us next time, where I'm told that I will be discussing how The Room is actually a masterpiece in filmmaking. I mean,
Sounds like me.
but I don't believe that's an opinion I have.
Is it?
Huh?